Alright, so on the last video, if you watched that on the autocross video, I posed the question there of why is my engine cutting out the way it does. So if you didn't comment on that video and you still want to get a comment in there, I'm going to show you what I figured out was wrong with it. Go ahead and drop that comment in there right now, and we'll see what your guesses, see if your guesses are right. Hey everyone, Riken Garage here. So, what am I doing today? I'm checking over JYM, my '89 Mustang. I just went to the autocross the other day, and I'm just getting into checking various things on the car to see how it looks. So I'll be going over the little bit of ignition system, fuel system, what's my fuel pressure, just some good basic stuff like that. I'm going to show you what I'm going over. Alright, there's plenty things to fix. This autocross was the last test and tune of the season. I'm not going to be able to make the last race, so the season's over for me. I'll be paying attention to the engine, but not just the engine, right? I'm going to come over and check all my suspension, brakes. Got the rear end here to go over and look at. I had kind of a burnt gear oil smell, and I had some pretty fresh gear oil in it, so the rear end actually howls a little bit, and it could be one of my bearings. That'll be one of the things I go over and look at. Driver's side wheel is off. I'm inspecting the brake hose. It still looks pretty good. I'm looking at my rotor. There's a little bit, I can catch my fingernail in there. I just used a Durago rotor. This looks like I just got some dirt or a rock or something in there. I went ahead and added grease. It took just maybe half a pump on there, maybe 2 pumps on the ball joint. Right there. I put enough in to where I can just barely see it bulging out. Okay, this side's done. I don't see anything loose. I didn't have any clunking, so I'm not really going to worry about these bolts right up in here, but I do want to check the other side because it did have a little bit of clunking over there. Sometimes this is the way you got to do it. Right there. Alright, setting you on the toolbox there, so I have 2 hands. Let's see, get you a little bit more angle there, maybe. Alright, I have isolated what the problem is on this, and what I got is my pry bar right here, trusty pry bar, and I got it up in here so I can replicate the clump. So I put my hand dangerously in the way. And I can feel it, the strut is actually coming down, which if you remember in my, when I installed these struts, the KYB AGXs do not come with the strut hardware up top, the little bushings. I knew I was going to have to replace those eventually, and it looks like eventually has come around. So that'll be one of my projects before I go out and race this again, is go ahead and get those replaced. I was kind of thinking that's what it was anyway, But I'll just go ahead and get the poly ones, put those in both sides, show you how to do that. We'll have to come up with a slick way of doing that. I really don't want to pull everything off. I wanted to note, I ran a lug nut down on the rotor, so because with this rotor hat setup, like the new edge here, this is not a box setup. I got to do that, or else the hat will just flop back and forth, and I wouldn't be able to figure out what was going on. All right, so continue checking. Now that's some rake right there. Look at that. Stance. Alright, not what I was going to show you, but well, other than the squeaking, there's a clunking in here. I'm not sure if it's the bearing or the control arm at this point, but it is factory control arms on here, 30-year-old stuff, so I wouldn't put it past those. I'm going to get a peek in there and see what I got on those. That side's looser. That squeaking is, that's my poly bushing I have in the rear end. It probably needs greased. Yeah, sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But I have some slop in there. Also, of course the clutches are out in a differential, so I might be paying that a little bit of mind too. And this is, whenever I'm cornering in this car, I don't have a lot of oversteer. So that's to say that whenever I'm going around a corner, the rear end doesn't swing around, right? It just kind of pushes through and keeps going straight. That's due to the rear end being a little bit loose there. So I want to tighten that up. And I think what I'll do is tighten it up by replacing what I know is bad, and that's those factory control arms. Alright, so here is the control arm part. Right here. If you look right there, that's the sway arm, rear sway arm bar bolts. And if we look right in there, that is the lower control arm bolt on the body side. So this is that whole area that's being talked about with the torque boxes. That's where that, stop goofing around with my light. That's what's being referred to right there, is this whole area here, because that's where this arm comes in and connects to there. So that's all the torque arm box. Now on the other side, there's also a bolt and shock mounts. The shock mount, yours might not necessarily mount like that, but it's pretty much the same idea. It's make sure everything's good and tight on there, and then right there is the lower control arm bolt, so you want to make sure that that's all tight and nothing's loose in it. I went in and checked the rear end, nothing leaking, nothing wrong, it's full. The fluid did look just a little bit burned, and I think I have an idea why. So I have replaced the fluid and bearings and seals on the axle. I should have shut my door. I have replaced the wheel bearings and axles in this. Whenever I got it, it had like a bent axle in there, so the wheel, you could see it just wobbling back and forth like that. So when I did that, I did the wheel bearings and the seals, but I think the carrier bearings also need to be replaced, and since they needed to be replaced, that's what kind of knocked my wheel bearings a little bit loose. So I'm going to need to basically rebuild the rear end at some point before I push it much harder. It's well, kind of a more boring-ish video here of just going over some of the stuff. Yeah, I was in my door. Yeah, it's not in the same position because I actually did some work on my dad's 97 Dodge truck, then pulled the car back in. But just a little tidbit, it's on the wheel dollies because I had it up there facing that way, and I still have enough room to pull another Mustang in right there. So that's probably where Project Phoenix will be over winter, and JYM will be pulled in right here. So, or if I'm working on a ram charger, it might be pulled in there too, because they're about the same length. Okay, so that's what I did for my Fox Body Mustang. Just some good maintenance and look over, especially since I've been taking out to the autocross and putting stresses and stuff on the car that actually wasn't designed to do, right? So I didn't find anything major on the front end. It looked pretty good. Moving back to the rear end, I had my axles just are moving a little bit, and they shouldn't really have that much movement in there. So that means I need to go in and replace those bearings. But I also need to address the worn out clutches in the rear end, so I actually have both tires spinning or whatever they're going to do, right? And then make sure I do my carrier bearings at the same time. So that's pretty much a rear end rebuild. Nothing else major. We did see some of the stuff on my engine while the engine was cutting out, and that was, like I said, the positive coil wire going into the coil. That little clip right there didn't hold it in, so it was backing out. So I don't think I explicitly said that, but here's a little clip here you can see of that. That's just some good checks that I've done on my Fox Mustang. Looking good, driving good, enjoying it. So if you like what you see, and I know that this is kind of a more boring-ish video, but I did show you that one, the coil wire hoo-yah thing, right? So that's something that'll come up and get you if you're having that trouble. So that's where it just kind of, you know, you're cruising along good power level, and it's like drops down for a little bit and comes back up. That's what it was doing, and that's one of the telltale signs. Anyways, I'm gonna close this one out. So if you like what you see, make sure to hit that like, hit subscribe if you haven't done so. Make sure to share a comment. Don't share. Make sure to share this content. And don't forget to comment on there if you like what you see. And I'll see you next time on Broken Tool Garage.